So you guys are sort of a property group then from the Gold Coast. So you know the Gold Coast quite well, I assume.
Yes.
Broadbeach, Mermaid Beach, etc. So this, of course, this development is in Burleigh, so Burleigh Heads. Our developer, Morris Property Group, who are doing many of the other buildings you would have seen today, have just finished Boardwalk Burleigh Heads, which is just down the road, about 900 metres. So that building is sold out now. And off the back of the success of that building, we've picked up another site here and doing another building. So we launched this one in November, and the dots are what we've sold. So you can see it's been a very, very successful launch. It's going very well. So the building is located where we stand. So this site here, there's also a salmon building you may have noticed next door, a pink building. That will be knocked over as well. So it's a very broad site. The real strength of the site is north is out this way, so it's north over parkland. So this beautiful green space here is never to be built out. The hoarded off area there is has some cultural significance to the Indigenous community of Australia. So it's very unlikely that anything will ever happen to that. So north you've got that wonderful view out that way. Of course, off to the east you've got the ocean. The eastern edge of this site is only 50 metres from the esplanade, so 50 metres from the beach. And once we get up a little bit higher, you will start to get $1 million views of the ocean, both up the coastline and down the coastline. So just a bit of an indicator here on the wall of these big pictures here. That's the view there back to Burleigh. And this, of course, is the view going up to the north. I can show you those views. But so north to Parkland. Now what that has enabled us to do is we've put an entire level of facilities in here. So the entire first level is dedicated to facilities. So you've got a pool here overlooking this beautiful green space. You've got a sun deck, a residence lounge, a gym, all those sorts of things. So the residents will get to enjoy that. So very, very good. So our 2 bedrooms here start at $525,000. They all have 2 bathrooms, so that's 2 bed, 2 bath, $525,000. The most expensive 2 bed we have is $800,000. So the range then for 2 beds, $525,000 to $800,000. And of course 800 will be north facing, top floor, looking right up to the north, or back down to Burleigh Headland this way. So really, really good views. Really good. So our 3 bedrooms start at 1.59. That is a 3 bedroom with 2 living areas. So it's got a very large second lounge room, 2 car spaces, and it's on the northeast corner. So basically they're from level 14 and above on the northeast or the southeast corner. So what that means is, because you're at level 14, you're over the top of this building over here, looking straight out at the ocean. You will look down, you'll see the beach and the ocean. They are magnificent units. So in terms of the apartments, there are essentially 4 main apartment types, A, B, C and D, and the building is essentially symmetrical. So the north side is the same as the south side, so you have the basically a mirror image on the south. So A, B, C and D north, A, B, C and D south. So it's a symmetrical building. 8 apartments per floor on the lower levels, and then as we get higher they become 6 per floor with 3 bedrooms in that position. So that's, I guess, a bit of an overview of the development. Interiors, of course, are over here, like the other displays you would have seen. So, quite nice finishes, Franca, Swiss branded appliances, Italian tapware, those sorts of things, and very low body corporate. So, very good units all in all. So, just some things about Burleigh as an investment destination. The Burleigh beach area has actually seen the median here is actually higher than Broadbeach, so not a lot of people know that. They think Broadbeach is probably the more expensive part of the Gold Coast, where the median in Burleigh is actually higher. So it's more expensive in Burleigh to buy in Burleigh than it is in Broadbeach. Burleigh, because of the lack of supply, this is the only other building in Burleigh outside of Boardwalk, which is the one we've completed. There are no other buildings on the market in Burleigh Beach. As a result, Burleigh has seen nearly double the level of growth than the broader Gold Coast. So I'll give you an independent, an Urbis report by Urbis, but essentially Gold Coast has seen in units about 4.5% per annum capital growth over the last 4 years. Burleigh has seen nearly 9% per annum over the last 4 years. So you can take that report with you and I can email that to you.
Awesome.
But essentially, very high median. Burleigh's a very, very strong performer in terms of capital growth. Outside of that also, rental yields, as you would be aware, across the Gold Coast are also very, very strong. So when compared to Sydney at 3.8%, and I have worked in the Sydney and Canberra markets as well, Gold Coast 5 to 6% rental yield, so very strong rental yield, very strong capital growth. So it's a very good place to invest if you're looking at investment clients. That probably summarises most of the buildings. We do have the view shots there from every level. So if you do have a client, we can sort of help you to appreciate what the views will be like from every level, a little bit higher or lower. But in essence, in summary, this view over here, obviously a very beautiful view back down to Burleigh. Units at the higher levels on this side, 650 to 700 will get you a view similar to that. So across the Gold Coast, particularly Broadbeach in this area, you'll probably find it difficult to find a unit 650 to 700 with an ocean view like that. Cocoa, obviously, the one I believe you were just at, you're looking at sort of 700, and you're sort of in the centre of Broadbeach, so a fair way down to the beach. That view there, you're very unlikely to lose that view because of the tall buildings are already there and you're looking over the top of them. So probably one of the best valuation view units on the Gold Coast there. Any other questions?
What about new, the light rail?
Yes.
I'm going to expand to here. That's stage 3.
That's correct. So stage 3 of the light rail is planned to come down to Burleigh. At this stage, they've just finished the business case for that, so it's very likely to go ahead. And when it does, it will come past your front door. So that if you know the Gold Coast well, you will know that Burleigh is more laid back. It's a very beautiful natural environment. Broadbeach is probably more famous for its amenity, for the casinos and the beautiful cafes and restaurants and all of the city lights and all of that wonderful amenity on your front doorstep. And if your buyers like that sort of thing, then Broadbeach is a great spot, of course. Whereas Burleigh is a little bit different. This is a more natural, beautiful, peaceful environment. You still, once you get the light rail, you'll be able to take a very easy light rail up to Broadbeach if you want to go shopping up to Sydney Fair and to the airport. But it's more of a natural environment. So of course the Esplanade is probably, in my view, the Esplanade on Burleigh Beach, all the way along here and up to the headland, is the most beautiful Esplanade on the Gold Coast. It's just a magic place. So there's certainly an X factor here to Burleigh. And of course James Street down the end here has some very good amenities, so coffee shops and nice places to eat, and it's just a beautiful spot to be. So it's got it all here in Burleigh. It's a very good spot.
So how low is body corporate?
Yeah, so it ranges
very low.
It ranges from $78 per week through to about $85 for 2 beds,
Okay.
and then about $100 a week, so about $120 for the 3s.
So it's got all the barbecue, gym, pool
Yep.
and everything, resident lounge, all this
Correct.
stuff.
Yeah, most of the Morris developments are similar in that. The way we position it is to put the things you need in, but not go overboard. So, because then it starts to lead to high body corporates. So we try and balance the facilities with lower body corporates. So Cocoa is the same. It's just a reasonable pool, gym, barbecue area, that sort of thing, but not too much. Otherwise you start to get very high levies. So this one has a pool here overlooking the parkland, a sun lounge along here, residence lounge area. There's a yoga lawn. There'll be a children's rock climbing wall. This is a residence lounge area and barbecues in here. An internal residence lounge. Some more green space along the back here, and then the gym is up in this corner.
Has it got a sauna?
Sauna? No.
I have a tenant who has a sauna in the garage.
Oh, right.
Seriously.
Wow. They're very,
Energy.
very keen.
Yeah,
Right.
they rented the house off us and they have a sauna and a gym in their
Wow.
garage.
Living
Impressive.
large.
I know.
Wow, they're really living a good life, aren't they?
Yeah.
Outside management, like,
Yes, so all, just about every building on the Gold Coast will have on-site management. Yeah. The building manager. There are really two parts to those management rights. The first is the management of the building. As we know, it's the normal physical management of the building. The second part, though, is the holiday letting rights.
Oh, okay.
And so depending on how many units you get in there and people that do holiday lets, you may have a holiday letting option there as well. So most of our developments will have, you'll see here the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
So Coco, Opus, all of them will have a desk at the front like that, so that you can actually run it as a holiday let if the owners wish to do so. And so, as you would be aware, holiday letting is a very popular option on the Gold Coast, and of course here in Burleigh and indeed Broad Beach, holiday letting will be very popular and a very viable option.
What's on the ground floor? It looks like it's only a driveway.
This is visitor parking.
Oh, okay.
That is a driveway, and then there's a basement. There's 3 basements for residents parking. So you will drive in
that's all
here
parking.
and then around down into the basement, and that's just visitor parking.
So we're all elevated to the second floor.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is there any visitor parking lot?
Yeah, right there.
Just here. Along there, so there's about 15 spaces.
having like one car space for the 2-bedroom and 2 for 3-bedroom.
That's correct, yes. It's very difficult to find 2-bed, 2-bath, 2-car on the Gold Coast. Don't really do them. So we do have some in Otto. Have you heard much about Otto?
Yeah, Alison took us briefly.
No worries.
About.
At the back to see
Yeah.
Otto, yeah.
Yes.
Otto. We saw it on the way here.
Good. Well, that's under construction. It's only 12 months till completion.
Oh.
It's only boutique, 68 apartments over 9 stories. So
Nice story.
It's on the other side, right?
yes,
Oh,
But what's on this side? There's a little side.
that's a
Where's
future
Mars?
development.
Ah, so that's not announced yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
We'll
I
launch
wonder
that
what
next.
it is. Otto, and what's this one?
not yet.
Yeah, down there.
Well,
close
we
to that.
probably called Oceans.
Oceans.
It's on Ocean Street.
Ah, okay.
Oh,
So that'll be a similar boutique development, maybe 70 apartments, 9 stories.
There's already an Oceans apartments in Southport.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Names taken.
there's a lot of ones that are similar.
Yeah.
So
No, that one in Southport, what I was talking about, the Grey Street, that's actually called Oceans Apartment.
oh, there you go.
So that name's taken.
Well, we have to be two of them: Oceans Mermaid Beach and Oceans Southport. So, yeah, so it's pretty good. But look, all in all, this is a very, very good investment location. As I said, really the only thing you need to look at is for anything investment is the sales rate, and you can see this has sold extraordinarily well since we launched in November.
So what
Continue
are
to be
we,
very busy.
sorry, what are we planning on starting construction? Yeah.
Well, like any of our projects, they are subject to pre-sales, so we do need to get a certain level of pre-sales. With that said, we're tracking very well, so we anticipate commencing towards the end of this year, and then it'll be around a 2-year build, so probably mid to late 2020 for completion. Yeah, so very good building, all floor-to-ceiling glass, $1 million views. As I said, that view there, 650, very difficult to go wrong with a view like that. And we're selling very well, so. I don't know if you're collecting brochures, but you're most welcome to take a brochure with you if you
Yeah,
like.
we'll do that at the end.
No problems. So you're based in Southport?
Yes. The only apartment I've looked at around here would probably be the Sunland one.
Okay.
Yeah, they haven't started doing that yet. The Magnolia one.
Oh yeah, in Palm Beach.
Yeah, in Palm Beach. That's that's the only one I've
I
looked
think
around.
they're sold
here.
out now, so
Yeah.
And they're townhouses. So.
No, they're planning on doing apartments there. It's just
Okay.
not launched yet.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah, the townhouses are all sold out, but the apartments are coming.
Yeah, look, Palm Beach, personally, I don't like as much. I know there's a lot of buzz around Palm Beach at the moment. Everyone thinks it's a fantastic location. I guess for me, the weakness of Palm Beach is there is no esplanade, there is no beachfront. It's all owned by people, obviously houses and things like that. So you will see the ocean in some of those developments. You'll see the ocean, but there's some view risk, and you can't just go for a walk along. You can get down the beach and walk on the beach, but there's no esplanade. So obviously Surfers has an esplanade, so does Broad Beach has a beautiful esplanade, and Burleigh has the best on the Gold Coast, I think. And that's what's really, it's owned by the people and has this beautiful atmosphere and trees and grass, and it's very nice. So. But so we don't have anything in Palm Beach at the moment. We're not really.
So the one next door, that one's all sold out.
Yes, you'll see that it went on your way down. On your left, you'll see Boardwalk, and yes, that is absolutely sold out.
So
Just so you know, the top level 3 bedroom sold there for just under 1.8, 1.7 something, very high sevens, 1.7. So 150 square metre 3 bed sold for nearly $1.8 million there. With that kind of view, they start at 1.59 and they're 50 square metres larger. So these 3 bedrooms are absolute steal. They are very, very good units. Particularly on the south side. So yes, any other questions?
Is it FRB included?
Yeah. In which respect? So there's no pre-approval for foreign investment, but you will get approval. So you can, foreign investors can buy it. It's eligible because it's a new build, but there's no FIRB pre-approval. Sometimes developers can get a pre-approval so that your buyers don't need it, but we don't have a pre-approval.
So pre-approval's not for any of the projects that you guys do?
We don't do that. But it doesn't matter, it makes really no difference. It just means they've got to make the application. I suppose it cost them 5,000.
5,500.
Yeah,
500 extra.
Plus GST, and obviously more if you're over that. And as you guys would be aware, the foreign investment surcharge is going to go up in July. It's a very good opportunity for you guys to try and get people in before then. But we like anywhere, we love foreign investors, so there's no additional deposit requirements, 10% like everyone else. Yep. So very good spot.
Does this 3-bedroom get the upgraded
Yes.
fridge and everything as well?
Yes.
Like cocoa.
Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
So all 3-bedrooms has the premium stuff.
Yeah. So
That's good.
there are some other, not in Otto or Cube,
No, those are
but
not high end.
Coco, Opus, this
And this
one, all have those high end appliances. They're worth about 50,000. So the fridge is about 20,000. And if you saw those in Coco, they're a very nice fridge. The Wolf appliances. Yes. It's pretty much the same as in what you saw in Coco. Oh, they're just magnificent. I know I'm probably a little bit biased, but these I think are the best 3-bedroom on the Gold Coast at the moment. 3-bed, 2 live-in. Your master bedroom is here, looking straight out onto the ocean. No view risk. You're absolutely on the ocean. Even at Coco, as much as I don't want to be too disparaging, there is some view risk there because there's so many buildings between you and the ocean. You may see another building, whereas there's a building there. You're right on the ocean. for 1.59. The high-end appliances, 3-bedroom. Show you that floor plan.
So what are the green ones? I know the
Their
pink ones
contracts are
sold.
issued.
Contracts are issued.
This
for
is
the green
exchange. That's
Yep.
just exchange. That one's exchange. So I've got to update the thing, yeah. But and those two are exchange. So yeah. So that's that 3-bedroom floor plan there. Very large master bedroom looking straight at the ocean. The 2nd bedroom over here looks straight at the ocean. Very large
Second bedroom is
terrace
in here, right?
here.
Oh, okay.
So this one is your master. So this picture here is really a render of the 3-bedroom master bedroom. That's what the master bedroom would be like. Floor to ceiling glass and then access out onto the balcony. So absolutely magnificent unit. So your 2nd bedroom will be here. So when you're in bed in this one, laying in bed, you'll be looking straight towards the ocean. And of course a northern view as well up the coast or down the coast.
So this is how the building sits, right?
That's
So
correct.
This one here is
The
this
north?
corner.
No, this one here. But this is a mirrored floor plan, so that would just be flipped over that way
Oh,
for the
okay.
south side. So
Yeah, so I was a little confused.
fantastic floor plan.
Yeah, so that one's there.
Excuse me,
Yes.
would you mind asking?
对，这套是这边，这个
这边第2个 bedroom 就不算它的，
第2个
以上这边
对，这边是这个第2个，这边是这个第2个，都是相反的。对，
So
3个
they
bedroom 都能
basically
看到
they are the same view from this both side, right?
Similar. So they'll be the same to the east,
Yeah.
but the view. So if I could just jump in here, the 3-bedroom is either on the high levels, not down here,
Yeah.
is from there to there, or
Yeah.
the same around on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's one there. Master bedroom, living,
Yeah.
2nd lounge room, 3rd bedroom, 2nd bedroom.
Mhm.
So that one will have the view back to Burleigh Headland this way.
Okay.
And this one on that side will have this view up to the north, back up to
Oh,
Surfers
yeah.
Paradise. Personally, I prefer this. I think this is magnificent.
Yeah.
You can imagine laying in bed, watching television, and you're looking at that. Ocean view out this way, and this view back down to the headland. And above. But even at, say, level 10, you will have some little bit of blue.
Yep.
But also there is a unit that looks on that side, looking straight directly east, so you'll have that view. Now there may be another building here one day, but at this point in time there is a unit there at 6 to 650, depending on how high, that looks straight at the beach. You'll see the waves, the ocean, the beach. Beautiful.
Everyone's built and he's
But-
just there.
Yeah, well, we approached them to try and buy that site.
And they
didn't
wouldn't
wanna
go.
sell. In Burleigh's a bit different because everyone loves Burleigh. So no one wants to sell. They just love their old house and they love their little old unit and they're happy. Whereas I'm all about money, so, you know, I would have been selling it and doing something else. So. Yeah, but even if there is another building there, you would still, these are your setbacks. So this is the block runs from there to there. You have to have a setback, so it'll probably be the same size.
Is there any limited buildings they can build?
Yeah, well the site characteristics, the frontage is quite narrow, so it doesn't really lend itself to a high rise. You couldn't get a high rise on there. Plus also you need to get the car parking, so you have to have 0.75, generally 0.75 bedroom, cars per bedroom. So we have a very large site and we have 3 basements to accommodate this height. To accommodate height on there and get the cars that you need, you'd have to go down way too far. You couldn't get the cars on. So it'll probably be a smaller building, if it ever happens. It probably will one day.
So all those are about like 13 levels.
No, about 10 or 11, but you do the older buildings, So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But older buildings used to be a bit higher.
Yeah.
Now they're a little bit
They
shorter.
have 2 levels
So it's the
there.
equivalent of about 13, 14 in this building. I do have the RLs there, but so this development's a little bit complex, a little bit harder to get your head around, to sort of comprehend, because you've got high level views that way, high level that way. On the east, you've only got the 2 beds on the lower levels. So this becomes 3 bedrooms here. So 2 bedrooms and then 3 bedrooms. The 2s, you can see they're sold mainly in the good position. So looking east, you can only get down low. And then you've got these buildings.
What is the height inside, like 2.4, 2.6?
Ceiling height.
It's just under 2.7.
2.7?
Yeah. 2.68 probably.
Oh, pretty
So
small.
it's 3 metres floor to floor, about 200 of slab, and then about 100 of services. So, and then because the plasterboard is a little bit off the 2.7, so about 2.68.
Alison said Coco's about 2.78. Is that right? That's what she said. She said it's just under 2.8.
Yes, I'm not sure. I don't think it would be, but yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah, sure, I could be wrong, I don't know. So generally, buildings are 3 metres floor to floor. Every 3 metres is another level. You have 300 of services generally. So 300 of slab and services, so it's about 200 thick concrete, and then about 100 of services in underneath of your plumbing and electrical and all of that under the ceiling, and then a little bit for the plasterboard takes about 20 off. So it's just under 2.7, which is about the height you have here. So that's about 2.7. All the joinery goes all the way to the ceiling, similar to that. So full height. But just generally, so Morris Property Group, as you would be aware, I'm not sure how much Alison told you about Morris Property Group, but they are probably the most reputable developer on the Gold Coast. They've completed many very high quality buildings in recent times, so Eclipse Broadbeach, Verve Broadbeach. Here in Burleigh there's Ivory, which is just over here. If you turn left, just here you'll see Ivory, one of the most beautiful buildings on the Gold Coast. Element further down in Burleigh, Boardwalk, which we've talked about, is just about to finish, so 20 stories just down here. Broadbeach, they've got Cube under construction, Otto, Sierra Grand, Verve, many really good buildings. Been developing for 40 years, and they are very high quality. They do their own building, so they develop really solid quality. And some little touches they do that other developers don't do. All the air conditioning units, the condensers for the heating and cooling are located in a plant room, so they're never on the balconies. So your balconies have nothing on them. So just
Are they
clean.
ducted or?
Depends on the units.
So some
Coco, they're
members-
ducted in here. The 3 bedrooms are ducted. The 2s have a split system on the wall.
But you won't see the zone.
You'll never see the box. The
box, yeah.
the box is located in the plant room,
Okay.
in a separate room.
Okay.
So they're not on balconies.
That's good.
So you won't see them. It's not very good in summer when it's hot and you've got the air conditioning on, and then you go out to your balcony and you've got hot air blowing on. There's nothing worse.
That won't be nice.
And it's noisy and they get rusty and they look unsightly. They don't look good. So they're in a plant room.
Yep.
Range hoods are usually always externally vented, so they come up and out. They have a vent to blow outside, so they don't recirculate. So if you're cooking, all the smoke gets sucked up and taken outside, not recirculated.
Is it the same as ducting?
The range hoods, you mean?
Yeah.
It's effectively ducted, yes. So it sucks the air out and it's ducted outside.
Is that the same with Coco and?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, it was.
Usually it's pretty standard finish.
Chloe said it was 2.8, not.
Chloe's only
not
new, so
Coco.
maybe. Because Alison, she's my prodigy. She's
Yeah,
very
not
good, so
Alison. It was Chloe.
She's awesome.
I'll probably have to
so-
double check that.
Yeah, Chloe's only new, so it might have been just a misunderstanding. I would suggest it's very likely that it's only just under 2.7.
Yeah, I was
Highly
amazed
likely.
when she said it was 2.8, and I was like, wow, really?
It's a bit of an odd height.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird that she didn't use that as a sales point if it was really 2.8.
So
Would be
she's-
something that you
she's-
have to mention.
Yeah, well, she's only new, so she probably just a slight misunderstanding.
That's all right.
So usually 2.7, just under 2.7. So, it's a
2.7
standard
is
formula
good.
really for buildings.
Yeah.
3 metres, floor to floor, less slab, services and duplex. So, ceiling heights are very good. Usually, most of the time, across opus and your floor to ceiling glass, very
Yep.
so full height. Like you see over here.
Would that
It's almost
be
all glass.
in some of the marketing materials, the ceiling height?
Yeah. Yeah, generally. So
Yeah, because we might need to double check that for Opus. Because I double checked with her, I triple checked with her like how high the glasses are and how high the ceilings are, and she was sure that it was 2.8.
yeah. So some things like that, to be honest, unfortunately, a lot of the things we tell you are in good faith. Probably unlikely you will see the ceiling heights in the contract documentation.
Yeah.
So generally that's how it is,
Yeah.
but we won't probably put that in there because it leaves us open to liability if it's 2.68 instead of 2.69,
Yeah.
then there's a problem. So if you use, instead of using this gyprock, maybe the builder, you know, it's a tiny little bit lower, then you have a problem. So that people can maybe come back and say, oh, you told us it was 2.69. So we won't generally, that's approximately what it will be generally. So even things like, a lot of those things, we won't tell you generally what kind of glass it is. Generally it will be very thick glass like that. Most 9 times out of 10 it is. But developers wouldn't be able to develop such big buildings. The GR on this is $163 million. You can't do a $163 million building with 163 apartments. Sometimes you have to make changes. Sometimes maybe the pool has to be a bit shorter or a bit larger. So developers in all off-plan things will generally try and specify as little as possible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they leave themselves open for liable stuff. So, yeah, so you're very unlikely to see the ceiling heights in the contract documentation. So it's more of a good faith thing. So the key word is generally.
Okay.
So generally 2.7, just under 2.7.
Yep.
Could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower.
With board work, it's nearly close to completion, right?
Yes.
Is it at the stage where valuations can be done, or
Yes.
how are we looking at the valuations?
Do you
on
have
the
some
dollar?
units in there? Or?
No, just wondering because that would give us a good indication on how valuations will go here.
Oh, well, valuations will absolutely stack up. There'll be no issues with values.
So are they on the dollar or are they short?
I can't say exactly, but what I would say is the Burley market's jumped 27% since they bought those units. So there's no issues there. The other thing is too, obviously, it's a bit different with developments, but because we sell at a very consistent price. We don't do enormous discounting. We'll never say get to the end and sell these ones 50,000 less than these ones. We don't slash and burn. The developer Morris Property Group won't slash and burn, so to speak, like you might have to do in places like inner city Brisbane or maybe Southport. So they're quite stable, very stable valuations. The valuations will be fine. So, and valuers don't generally specify an exact figure. They generally will specify like a kind of a range or almost between and around there, and a weighting on those as well. So
They will have to have a figure if it's for loans from the bank.
yeah. So generally it adds weight to the purchase price. So if you're paying 400,000, they'll say, look, it's probably 400,000 is a reasonable figure. They won't say. It's not possible to say it's worth exactly $403,500 because there's fluctuations in there. So generally, a property is worth what someone will pay for it, and of course the market evidence is what valuers will use, so to see what other things are selling. So when we're selling these at quite consistent prices, as they go on, obviously there's a ton of market evidence there to support the pricing that they're paying.
Yeah, because I know some of them go above their contract price, and that's really good for us to sell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't represent that. So it's very, I personally wouldn't represent that. I wouldn't tell you that would happen. What I would say is I'd just give you evidence of what's happening in other things. So I can say, look, I wouldn't say, and of course there are different units as well. So there's 100 and something different units in there. Some of them are certainly selling for more than they paid for them. There has been significant uplift in the prices that people paid in Boardwalk, very significant. There are some, if you look on realestate.com, you'll see some resales on there that they're asking at least 100,000 more than they paid, but no one knows what they paid except us. But there are significant up. There has been.
We can we can get those from RP Data, right?
When it settles, you can, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I haven't settled this.
When it settles, you see all those facts and figures.
Yep.
You'll be able to see that there's been uplift. Generally, there is uplift in off-plan. Of course, I'm not in the business of, I would never represent to anyone what the capital growth might be like.
Yep.
I can say, I've given you that report, I can say historically Burleigh has seen 9% per annum, so it's been a very strong performer, but there's a very, if you know much about investment, you'll know there's the old saying, past performance is no guarantee of future return.
Yeah, definitely.
So just like Sydney, just because Sydney kept going, 10, 15, 20% per annum, doesn't mean that that's going to happen tomorrow. So a lot of people come in and they're chasing their tail. It's too late because all that growth has already occurred. And then I had people that I recommended not to buy in Sydney because it was that close to top, and they bought at the top of the market. And now it's not come off massively, but it has come off a little bit.
Yep.
And so you've got to be mindful of those things. So just because it's gone up and up and up and up doesn't mean it could not go up tomorrow.
Yeah.
But so that's why I would never say, because things can happen, as we know. So I'd never tell you that yes, you will see.
Yeah, past
X amount.
experiences are as close as we can get.
Yeah.
That's the only indication we can get.
That's right. But what I would say also though is that prices are driven, as we know, by supply and demand.
Yeah.
So the most important factors you can look at are the supply and the demand. So when we look at Burleigh, there is no other supply. So there are no other developments on the market. This is the only development on the market in Burleigh. So Boardwalk sold out. This has sold very well since its launch, and the demand continues to be strong because the Gold Coast has very strong population growth. All of those statistics are in that report I gave you. So Gold Coast, very strong population growth, very strong employment growth. There's a lot of infrastructure going in. A lot of our developments are selling to downsizers. So while the demand has come off significantly from foreign investors, as we know, because of the macro-prudential controls, all the APRA sort of slowing down investment lending, obviously problems getting money out of China, and the additional stamp duty charges and the FIRB application fees have tried to slow that market down a bit. But downsizers and first home buyers are certainly very strong now at the moment as well. So Opus is almost entirely been selling to downsizers. So they're all 60 pluses, baby boomers. In Australia we have the ageing population, you may have heard about that. So they're all looking to downsize, selling their big house. The kids have grown up and left home, and so now they're selling that and they want a low maintenance lifestyle and a very nice, good quality apartment. So that's largely what's driving our market here. We're seeing a lot of interstate migration back to Queensland. So they are, the market's still, quite strong in the Gold Coast. So, and there's not a lot of supply. If you're buying in inner city Brisbane, obviously there's a lot of supply in inner city Brisbane. That will get soaked up eventually, but
Has already.
yeah, so I think the next few years will be the time for Brisbane, and it is getting soaked up. But obviously, that's where there is a little bit of risk in terms of your price growth if there is significant supply. So you've got to watch out for areas with greenfield sites and things. So I don't know how well you know Sydney, but Waterloo, Zetland, those areas around there are very high risk, I would say. And while Sydney's gone up 20%, those areas have gone up next to nothing. Same with Docklands in Melbourne even Southport to an extent in Melbourne. Sorry, South Bank in Melbourne. So there's not a great deal of supply that can be put into Burleigh. There's not sites everywhere, so it's very difficult to do new buildings here. So that means it's relatively low risk, I think. So yeah.
How much we're looking at rental?
So rental on the Gold Coast, we know, very low vacancy rate. I wouldn't give you an exact figure because there can be some variances there, but what I would say is 5% is quite reasonable here in the Gold Coast.
Do we have rental appraisals down for this one?
We do, yes. So 5 to 6% is a reasonable expectation, and it will depend on the unit though as well. So obviously, a $2 million apartment you're not going to get 5% on. You know the old dollar per thousand rule. So $2 million apartment, $2,000 a week is probably unlikely. You might get $1,500, maybe $1,200 for a good 3-bedroom per week. The starting price here, $525,000. You'll easily get $525 a week. Probably likely to get $600. So you're going to have a better yield on this one down the bottom. Might be 5.5 to 6%. This one at the top, it's maybe 3. So, but the trade-off is capital growth. So you get generally better growth in this beautiful 3-bedroom at the top than you will in the $525,000 cheap unit. So it tends to be a trade-off there. So the Gold Coast is very strong on rental yields, very strong on growth at the moment. So it's a good place to invest, and it's by the beach. So yeah, it's good.
Any questions? Good.
No worries, I'll give you my card. If you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch. I'll just